Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Beauty in Us Radio right here on Awesome Guide Radio. I am your host, Nelson E. Brown, and I would like to thank you all for tuning in to another show. Now, we have a very exciting show this evening because we have the Executive Director of Civic Works Incorporated, Mr. Dana Stein, here with us this evening. He's going to talk with us in about 15 to 20 minutes about his work as the Executive Director for Civic Works. So, just in case you all are not familiar with Civic Works, and just FYI, I'm representing Civic Works in AmeriCorps with my T-shirt and with my merchandise today. So, I have my Civic Works Elder Services bottle that I received while I served as an intern during my time at UMBC and in college, and I also have my shirt representing the foundation, the organization. So I'm excited to speak with Mr. Stein about his work as the executive director for Civic Works. And I just want to give you guys a little bit of an overview about Civic Works and what it's all about. But before we move any further, I wanted to provide you all with a little bit of information about Civic Works and about Mr. Stein. So I'm going to read his bio, and he's going to talk with us in about 15 minutes about his work at Civic Works and how he's been able to really merge all of his passions and all of his talents and his abilities together in order to make a nationally recognized nonprofit organization meaningful to the community. So, to start off, again, I'm going to read his bio and then I'm going to speak about my experience working under the Elder Services Program, which is one of the programs that Civic Works offers during the summer. Mr. Stein is the executive director and founder of Civic Works, a nationally recognized urban Peace Corps and AmeriCorps program that transforms the lives of young adults throughout the community. Participants rehab homes, build parks and gardens, tutor and mentor students, make improvements in the homes of senior citizens, and grow fresh produce at an urban farm. Civic Works also operates a high school in Baltimore City and is based in the historic Clifton Mansion. Mr. Stein is also a member of the Maryland House of Delegates and represents District 11 in Baltimore County. He was first elected to the House in 2006 and is vice chair of the Environment and Transportation Committee and chair of the Environment Subcommittee. He is the co-chair of the state's Financial Education and Capability Commission and a member of the Maryland Commission on Climate Change. Prior to establishing Civic Works, Dana practiced law for several years at Squire, Sanders, and Dempsey in Washington, D.C. He has a Bachelor's of Arts in Government from Harvard University, a law degree from Columbia Law School, and a master's in Public Affairs from the Princeton School of Public and International Affairs. Now, this is a brief bio, but it sounds like Mr. Stein has been able to accomplish a lot, and he has. Um, I had such joy serving as an intern under the Summer Experience and Aging Program last summer through Civic Works and under the MedStar House Call program through MedStar Good Samaritan Hospital. That was a tongue twister. MedStar Good Samaritan Hospital. So I served as an intern for the House Call program through Civic Works last summer. I think I've shared it on a couple of my shows before, but I served under the Elder Services program through Civic Works, and I served in the capacity of as an intern with the community social worker at the time. And I had a great time under the program, and I had a great time working with the seniors in Northeast Baltimore and many of those communities, as well as their families and caregivers. And what I've learned about the field of gerontology is that the senior citizens often get bypassed and overlooked. Since we are just coming out of a pandemic, and since the health-related disparities between people of color and people who are not of color in marginalized communities, I was able to recognize what the disparities were. I was able to really see how the health disparities really affected each and every community in the city of Baltimore and within the communities that I was able to service through the House Call program and under Civic Works. And I was able to learn a lot about the Elder Services program, and I was also able to learn about the social dimensions of health. So I do have a certificate, along with my Bachelor's of Arts degree in sociology. I also have a certificate from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County in the social dimensions of health. And the social dimensions of health helped me understand the full scope of why things are the way they are. So in terms of the social dimensions of health, I was able to learn from my experience under the House Call program through Civic Works, and even with what I studied in at UMBC, I was able to really see how much people are really in dire need of many of the resources that they need in order to be successful and in order to be healthy and happy. What I've learned about Civic Works is that the Civic Works is very impactful, not just to the senior citizens who live in the city of Baltimore, but to a lot of the young people, a lot of the young adults who participate in the programs that they offer, and a lot of the young adults and a lot of the students who are still trying to figure out, what they want to pursue in life. It was such a rewarding experience working in the program throughout the course of the summer last summer. So I was again able to take what I learned in the classroom, and I was able to apply it to all of the internships that I've had, not just with the MedStar House Call program through Civic Works under the Summer and Experience and Aging program, but also um, when I served as the intern for the Maryland Department of Health, the Maryland Department of the Environment under the Lead Poisoning Prevention Program. I was able to recognize the disparities between each community in the city of Baltimore and throughout the state of Maryland. So it was really, really great to really apply those same concepts from the classroom to the workplace. And again, with Civic Works, I was able to learn about that. And even with my internship at Senator Cardin's office last fall, before I graduated from UMBC with my Bachelor's of Arts, and with my SDOH certificate alongside my associate's degree, I was able to really, again, apply those same concepts from the classroom to the workplace. So between 3 internships, I was able to really, really learn a lot. And what I've learned about the field of geriatrics, which is what this internship at Civic Works was all about, was that oftentimes the seniors don't get a lot of attention. I mean, let's just think about it. We're just coming out of a global pandemic. We have we've had a lot of families and who've suffered a lot of loss, and even in our personal lives, a lot of us have suffered a lot of loss, financially, emotionally, mentally, physically. I mean, the pandemic has taken its strain on our health, our livelihood, and our well-being. And this internship has really made me think about a lot of the seniors who are affected by the global pandemic throughout the course of the pandemic and who were often ignored. And going on these house calls with the community social worker and the nurse practitioner, speaking to the patients and caregivers, speaking to all of the parties who are involved, and just learning about all of the health-related disparities that exist between people of color in these marginalized communities definitely make me realize that we have to do better in terms of just educating ourselves about the senior population. Working with seniors, I've learned that by working with seniors, it requires an enormous amount of patience and understanding. Oftentimes, people, for instance, are much more willing to just invest their time and their energy and even their finances into other fields, other health-related fields, such as pediatrics, for instance, because they enjoy watching kids grow, babies grow into children, and children grow into adults. But again, the aging community, the aging population is forever changing. When I served under the House Call program, I was able to really learn more about Northeast Baltimore and the communities. I was able to learn more about what kind of health-related disparities there were within each and every patient. I was able to learn much more about not only what the House Call program does, but how much more the community can do when they are provided with the education that they need so that they can prosper and just, again, protect their loved ones, their parents, their grandparents, their great-grandparents, their aunts, their uncles, and the people that they love and care about. And I think that it was great learning about the field of geriatrics from a social worker standpoint, because again, I did serve under the supervision of a community social worker last summer, and I was also able to serve under serve in that capacity under the supervision of a nurse practitioner as well, so that I can see from a medical standpoint how these illnesses affect each and every patient, and how from a social worker standpoint how that has an impact on their emotional state and what their needs are. So I think that the most challenging part about working in the field of geriatrics, based upon what I've learned serving in this program under Civic Works through the house call program at MedStar Good Samaritan Hospital, is that in its entirety, again, people don't have the education that they need oftentimes so that they can make effective choices and for their loved ones. And oftentimes, we often forget about the fact that sometimes, at someday, we'll be in a situation where we're going to need our family members and the people in our communities to help us out when we get sick or when we're falling on hard times. We may not have the finances, we may not have the mental capacity to really make choices for ourselves. Again, the field of geriatrics, it requires a lot of patience for us to work one-on-one with the senior citizens and their families, and to just guide them through the process. It's difficult to connect the resources. A lot of the resources that are out there, people don't really know about them. So the goal is to connect the resources to the needs of each and every patient and caregiver. But again, sometimes we run into a lot of obstacles trying to find those resources in order to meet those needs for each and every patient. Sometimes we can find it difficult to really help the seniors and the patients and even their caregivers understand what the resources are and how we can really meet those needs, because there are a lot of them out there. We just have to really dig deep and really take time out to really educate our community about those needs and resources. So the field of geriatrics, what I've been able to learn through this experience under the house call program through Civic Works is that it's going to be forever changing. And even with the House Call Coalition in Baltimore City, I was able to really grow my network and really, really figure out, who was out there. In order to connect the patients to the appropriate resources, I had to figure out who was out there. I had to figure out which resources were most appropriate in order to address the specific needs of each and every patient who was enrolled in the house call program. And this helped me realize that, again, our seniors matter. Our seniors are important. Our seniors should never be bypassed. Our seniors, again, they need our understanding, they need our support, and they need our compassion. So this experience was very, very humbling for me. This experience definitely opened my eyes and made me realize that some people are who live in some of the impoverished communities in the city of Baltimore, and even from a global standpoint, people out there who may not have health insurance, for instance, or who may not be able to afford a reliable transportation, or may not have access to healthy fruits and vegetables, and who may not be in the position to really care for themselves. It's important to make sure that their needs are met, and that that they are in the position where they can make great, effective decisions for themselves, and so that they can have their independence that they want and desire. I was able to meet a couple of geriatricians. So just for the record, a geriatrician is a physician who specializes in the care of elderly people. Again, I was able to network with a lot of social workers, nurses, and people who, again, who have a passion for the elderly. All of us have senior citizens in our lives that we love and care about and who are dear to our heart. So when we are in a caring profession like this, these are some of the things that we often keep in mind when we talk about community service and when we talk about community organizing, or when we look at the history of Civic Works, for instance, as a nonprofit organization for the past 30 years, since 1993. They've been able to accomplish a lot. They've been able to really give back. they've been able to really show Baltimore that you can work together with your cohorts and really make a difference. Yes, so it helps, again, it helps all of us see things from a different point of view. It gives us a humbling experience. But again, for the young people, for the young adults, we are definitely in a position to use our ideas and use our creativity to our advantage so that we can make a difference. And what I've also noticed is that a lot of the seniors, most of the seniors really like speaking with young people. They like to feel like they're a part of the process. They like to feel like they're heard. They like that. They really enjoy speaking to young people. They enjoy speaking to the people who are in these fields and who work with them every day. They like speaking to them. They like, again, developing that rapport, and that's something that I've been able to establish as well. So when I completed the internship last summer, I was definitely able to really understand the meaning of service. I was definitely able to really broaden my point of view about the needs for a lot of the impoverished communities, not just in Northeast Baltimore and not just in the city of Baltimore itself, but also from a global standpoint. And how important it is for people to really understand what the resources are and how to educate people on those resources. Yes, sometimes we don't really understand what the resources are. Sometimes we run into difficulties with educating people about those resources. And a lot of the seniors and a lot of the caregivers just want to know that the people who are responsible for caring do care. And that's what I've been able to demonstrate during my service. That's what I learned under the supervision of the community social worker and the nurse practitioner at the time. So it was a great experience. It was definitely something that I will definitely take to heart. It's an experience um, that I will cherish for a lifetime. So it was really great. And we also have to be real and remember that we're all going to age. We all age every day. We are all going to be in a position where we're considered to be among the elderly, and we want people to provide that service to us because the senior citizens that we might be servicing now, that may be us in the future. So a lot of the seniors that I was able to speak with and work with under the House Call program during that time period during last summer, that might be me, in the future, in terms of just needing those resources, needing that attention, needing that guidance and that patience and that understanding. So I want people to be gentle with me. I want people to be patient with me. I'm going to want people to really be there for me. And I'm glad that I was able to do that for a lot of the seniors that I was able to really speak with last summer under the program. And without further ado, since he's hopped on, I'm going to introduce everyone to the executive director for Civic Works, Mr. Dana Stein. I was able to meet Mr. Stein last month when I received the Kathleen Kennedy Townsend Social Change Scholarship Award. So I had a pleasure of meeting him and his colleagues again. So Mr. Stein, thanks again for agreeing to appear on my show to speak about your work at Civic Works. I know you guys are celebrating 30 years of being a nonprofit and 30 years of community service, 30 years of giving back and just growing. So I want to thank you again for your service, and I want to thank you again for agreeing to appear on my show. Now, I did read a little bit of your bio. So what I've learned is that you're a really smart cookie. Yes, you're a really smart cookie, and you've really been able to really take your gifts and your talents, and you've really been able to really cultivate that. So could you tell us a little bit about that and what made you decide to really start an organization like Civic Works? Could you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Nelson. And first, thank you for the opportunity, the invitation to talk about Civic Works on your show. I really appreciate it. And congratulations on being awarded the Kathleen Kennedy Townsend Scholarship for Social Change. And for your listening audience, that is an award that Civic Works gives to one outstanding participant at Civic Works every year based on their commitment to social change and the work they've done at Civic Works. So Nelson, hats off to you for winning that, and thank you for all the work you did at Civic Works and all the other community work that you've done. I'm by profession, by training, a lawyer, and I worked at a law firm for a number of years after I got out of law school and realized that I really wanted to do something else, something that has more benefit to people and that has more of an impact. So what happened was I read about a program in Boston that since has become a national model for service. It's called City Year. And the idea was it engages young adults in all kinds of meaningful community service projects. At the same time, engaging these projects helps improve participants' skills, maybe gives them some career ideas, maybe it's in a field that they want to pursue professionally. So I thought, well, that's a great idea. And now this was more than 30 years ago. And at the time, I teamed up with Kathleen Kennedy Townsend, who is also a strong proponent of service programs. And, I pitched the idea to her and she said, this is great. Long story short, with her help, we opened our doors 30 years ago in 1993. And so I've been very blessed, very fortunate to be able to work with a lot of great people at Civic Works, and we've continued to sort of diversify the types of issues, the types of programs that we have over the years.
Yes, absolutely. And it was also great meeting her at the event, last month. My mom and I we really enjoyed meeting her, and it was a really great experience, seeing everybody's faces again, from the summer, and, again, all of us, having the same mindset in terms of, our ability to serve and our desire to serve the community. And again, I was able to learn a lot about the senior population in the city of Baltimore under the Elder Services program specifically. And I do know that there are tons of other programs out there, that Civic Works offers that a lot of young people and young adults can really take advantage of, so that can spark up a new hobby, a new interest, a new passion. So that's something that I was able to learn about. It was a very humbling experience working under the program last year during the summer, and I really enjoyed that. So my next couple of questions, I guess you answered a couple of them already, but I guess what are some of your connections to the city of Baltimore, and who really inspired you to pursue a career in community service? Because I know that you're an attorney. You started out as an attorney, but what made you decide to want to do this, and what are some of your connections to Baltimore City, and how did you decide to just plant this type of organization in the city of Baltimore? Because I know that Maryland has 24 jurisdictions. So what made you decide to want to, set the stage, I guess, plant the foundation in Baltimore City?
Yeah, I'm from the Baltimore area. I grew up just outside the city line in Baltimore County, so very familiar with Baltimore and all the great things that are in Baltimore, as well as some of the sort of the opportunities that are in Baltimore for improvement. So, I would say in terms of who inspired me, it was really, I have to go back to my family, my parents, who, while they worked for the state government and federal government and for different employers, but they were sort of my role models for commitment to public service. And as I worked to develop the idea for Civic Works with Kathleen Townsend, I was able to tap into this network of other youth corps directors in the area, as well as around the country. There are programs that are sort of the same model, engaging teams of young adults on different kinds of projects. In Montgomery County, the State Department of Natural Resources has a program. and similarly, there was, I remember, a program in Philadelphia, the Boston program. So I was able to visit those and sort of tap into their expertise and suggestions about how to get a program going. And from that, with Kathleen's help, I was able to develop a sort of network of people, both city officials as well as nonprofits and some businesses who really like this idea, this concept. We like to say Civic Works is an urban Peace Corps. So it's sort of the same kind of concept. And it took a while, about a year and a half or 2 years to plan, but we finally got our startup grant, and we've been running ever since.
Yes, and it's great that you all were able to collaborate, successfully. And it was great. It was great to hear that you guys were able to start from scratch, because I know that organizations like Civic Works, this doesn't get established overnight, and I know that it takes work, it takes perseverance, it takes commitment from everyone to really be involved. Because I know that sometimes it can create challenges, because you have to ensure that everyone is on the same page in terms of what the goal is and what the main objective is for whatever it is that you guys are working on. So it's great to hear that you guys were able to collaborate successfully, and you all were able to brainstorm and really bring your ideas to the forefront and really figure out how to move forward in that regard. So that's great to hear. So my next question is, who's mentored you throughout the course of your time expanding this organization, expanding Civic Works? Because I know that with everything that you build upon, you need guidance, you need direction, you need insight and input from somebody who's been in your shoes, or someone who's gone down the same road or the same path or the same road. So who has mentored you throughout the course of the 30 years that you've really been working, to ensure that this organization is, giving back and providing the community service that this community needs and desires?
I mentioned that there's this national network of youth corps, of service and conservation corps around the country, and for me, I was able to connect with some existing directors of conservation corps in California, and also the former director of the San Francisco Conservation Corps. And between the former San Francisco program director, the head of the Los Angeles Conservation Corps, and some other California programs, I was able over the years to get a lot of advice and mentorship from them. California has the first modern day youth corps. It was set up by former Governor Jerry Brown back in 1976. So California is, in so many issues, led the way with youth corps programming. And so for really better part of the past 30 years, I've been able to link up with these experienced program directors from California programs who've given me a lot of indispensable advice. And, everything from, in the early days, setting up systems, setting up our goals, to situations where, it like to sort of analogize setting up a nonprofit to setting up a business. Every once in a while, there's some new issue that comes up you don't know the answer to. So it was very helpful to have, a couple of people who I know I could call or email and say, hey, what would you advise on this? And so having, a mentor in whatever line of work one is in, nonprofit, for-profit, professional, et cetera, is really helpful, and it's been very helpful for me.
Yes, and again, that's great, because you've had a chance to really work with a lot of people in the network, and a part of establishing a nonprofit organization or any type of, I guess, foundation like this. You have to you have to have a willingness to really work with other people, and sometimes it can be very difficult to figure out how to move forward and which steps to take when you're on this journey, and when you're really trying to establish yourself, when you're new to this. because I know that back in 1993 this was something that was brand new, and I could imagine that I guess the fear is that maybe you're doing too much or not doing enough. You may feel like you're doing too much in one area and not enough in the other, and vice versa. So again, it's really great that you've been able to really take the input of others and really incorporate that into the way that you run, Civic Works, and the way you choose to expand this organization, the way you choose to give back, and really, really educate the community about the services that are offered and so forth. So that's really, really great because I know how difficult it can be to really, really get the ball rolling on things like this, because where to start is the most complicated thing to really figure out. But a lot of people see the journey from A to Z, but they don't really understand the obstacles that people go through in order to get to that point. So it's great that you were able to share how you got started and what that looked like. So how are you and your colleagues going to celebrate Civic Works' 30-year anniversary this year, and how have you been able to garner the support from your family and friends during the 30-year time period? I know that you mentioned that your family was your number one support system, and they were really backing you with this decision back then. So how do they feel about the way Civic Works, has really expanded now? Because again, 30 years ago, we didn't have access to a lot of the resources and the technology that we do now. So how has that been for them? And how are you guys going to be celebrating this year?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to talk about that. I mean, first, in terms of my family, my family loves the mission of Civic Works, which we say is to improve communities in Baltimore through community service, job training, and education. We really focus, on each of those areas, and so they love the mission. And my wife and my kids have volunteered over the years at Civic Works. In fact, my 16-year-old daughter is going to be joining me in one of the projects we're going to have in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day on Monday. Civic Works every year recognizes and celebrates Dr. Martin Luther King's legacy by having a number of up to about 10 different service projects. And so my 16-year-old, on her own, without any prompting, has said she wants to join me. So that's great. And in terms of how we'll be celebrating 30 years, well, I guess in a couple of ways. I mean, first, in sort of a more kind of long-term planning. What we're doing this year is strategic planning, which we haven't done for a while. So, that involves sitting down and taking a look at what's working well, what's maybe needs to be improved at Civic Works. And so that's one way that we're sort of going to be recognizing our 30-year anniversary is engaging with, and we've already started this strategic planning process, which will give us hopefully a roadmap for how to improve over the next few years. And then in addition to that, we're not going to have a big gala, a 30th anniversary gala, but we're going to have a number of small events. I mean, for example, one of our neat projects is what we call Real Food Farm, which is an urban farm in the middle of Clifton Park, which is where our headquarters and our school are located. And we use hoop houses, they're like sort of modified greenhouses to grow produce throughout the year. And so what we're going to be doing probably in the spring or summer of 2023 is we're going to be inviting our supporters, in particular of our farm, to sort of a community dinner right in the middle of Clifton Park on the grounds of Real Food Farm. Part of the meal will be with produce that we've grown at the farm. And we'll be doing a number of other sort of smaller events to celebrate our 30th anniversary as well. And all the while taking stock of, again, what has worked at Civic Works, what we've done well. And we always have to be thinking about, well, what could we be doing better what things should we try to expand upon. And so we're going through that, that deliberative planning process, starting really last month and continuing through much of 2023.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for elaborating on the events that you have, coming up at CivicWorks. In addition to MLK Day, and also, in terms of the community dinner, during the spring and during the summer months, so that everybody has an opportunity to participate in that. Everyone has an opportunity to, again, learn more about CivicWorks, and again, the community dinner. It's a very diverse and inclusive way, and it's a way that everyone can participate, because a lot of people, again, who don't know about CivicWorks can learn about CivicWorks through a lot of these events that you guys facilitate for the community, because everyone has an opportunity to participate. Everyone has an opportunity to learn more about, what you guys do. So it's great that you guys have been able to really, work together, in order to put these events together. So that's a good way to really celebrate the 30 years of service that you guys have been able to provide the community. And it's a great way to really, again, continue, the mission statement, which is to give back in these various roles. So my next question is, in terms of starting a nonprofit organization, what advice would you give to a lot of young people who want to run or start a nonprofit organization? Because a lot of young people like myself, we do have a passion for a lot of things. We may see a need for change in some area that we are passionate about, but a lot of people don't really know how to go about it, because when it comes to really running a nonprofit organization, a lot of people don't really understand what kind of tools and resources they need in order to get that going. And they often think that you need to do it by yourself in order to make things successful. And I realized through speaking with a lot of people in my network, and even with working with a lot of your colleagues, is that you need people in order to make this happen. You're not in the position to really do this all on your own. So what advice would you give to really to a lot of young people who are interested in doing this? What advice would you give them? Because a lot of them may not know where to begin.
No, that's an excellent question. And, I was in that situation 30 plus years ago. I mean, I was a lawyer. What did I know about running a nonprofit organization? Not very much. So I had to, nowadays there are actually some degree programs in nonprofit management that someone, if they wanted to get a professional degree and get, training at a university, it can be done. But especially 30 years ago, there wasn't that much of that. In my experience, it's certainly important to have, clear sense as to what mission you want to accomplish. And then also take two other steps. First is develop a network of people who can advise you on how to develop your mission into an actual program, which is what we did. I mentioned that we set up a task force, about 25 different people, which met probably for about a dozen times before we actually opened our doors and set up our first programs. So consult with a lot of people who have interest in what you're proposing. And then also see if there is another organization out there that might sort of partner, or an existing organization that might partner with you, at least to get your program up and running, because there's a lot of paperwork that has to be undertaken to set up a separate nonprofit organization, then to become a tax-exempt 501c3. So what we did, again, analogizing to what CivicWorks did, is Kathleen Townsend, she already had an existing nonprofit that focused on student service learning opportunities. So we set up CivicWorks actually as a program of her organization for our first couple of years. And then once we got sort of big enough and we were kind of steady on our feet, and then we spun off and set up our own nonprofit called Civic Works Incorporated in 1995. So those are just a couple of suggestions. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention there was this great statewide association of nonprofits. It's called Maryland Association of Nonprofit Organizations, and they have lots of great workshops, seminars on everything nonprofit related, including, for those individuals who want to set up their own nonprofit program or organization. And so they are a great resource to tap into for anyone who, any person who would, young or old, who would like to, set up something new.
Yes, and thanks again for providing that valuable information about how to really start a nonprofit organization and how to really get that going. I think that'll definitely be useful for a lot of the young people and even some older people who may have already established their careers in other fields and who may want to really take a dive into something completely different from what they do on a day-to-day basis. And again, that's valuable information to provide because people often go into something new without having all of the information at their disposal. And sometimes it can lead you to a dead end, or sometimes you may be in a position where you feel like you crash and burn because you're kind of going through and you're kind of trying to just wing everything versus really sitting down and really speaking with people that are a part of your cohort. And I think that in order to run a successful nonprofit, I think that it's necessary to have people that you can trust. I can imagine that in order to fulfill that dream that you have to really have people who are a part of your circle who understand that dream and who have the same passion for that, whatever that need of change should be or should be. So I think that it's great to just have a team of people on board who understand your vision and who can support you in that dream, and so that you guys can work together and really do that diligently. So that's really, really great information to provide. Another question I do have is, what is the most difficult part about running a nonprofit organization? Because we can see the beauty in all of the work that you all do, but we don't really see the challenges that take place behind the scenes, because we just see the good stuff most of the time. We don't see the moments where you guys may feel like you may not know how to move forward, or you may be caught between like a rock and a hard place in certain circumstances. In certain situations, and you may not know how to move forward, or you may feel frustrated and overwhelmed. So, could you tell us a little bit about how difficult it can be to run a nonprofit organization? Because we always see the beauty in nonprofit organizations, but with everything, there come challenges. So what does that really look like for you and your colleagues when you get into that space?
Yeah, I would say, and this is probably earlier on in the organization's history, when we hadn't set up all the right systems that we needed to, because again, we're just like any organization, for profit or not for profit. You need to have you need to have everything from an employee handbook, which is consistent with all the HR requirements in the state of Maryland. Need to have, of course, a on the financial side, strong person who can maintain financial controls and can provide reports and can provide information to potential funders. You need to have dedicated people who are, who typically are, if they work for a nonprofit, are going to be earning less than they could in the for-profit sector. And so you really need people who buy into the mission, are willing to work long hours, and also, I think one thing that's important as an executive director, just like any CEO, you need folks who are going to tell you when you're not doing something right or when something's going wrong, so you can make a mid-course correction. So I guess, in terms of specific challenges, I guess sort of raising money is always, fundraising is always a challenge. It's gotten much easier over time as CivicWorks has established a track record and our name has gotten out there. In the beginning, it was really hard because who are we? No one ever heard of us. We hadn't done anything yet. So, but we were fortunate to have some startup funding, in terms of grants that really let us get our sea legs and have develop a track record of engaging young adults in meaningful service projects that also benefit communities. I would say also, we operate, one of our major programs is we operate a high school, and that wasn't even though none of the CivicWorks staff are directly, not the principal and the teachers are considered school system employees, but for us, that was an entirely new endeavor. So we figured we could involve some of our other programs, our workforce programs in the high school. So that's why we thought, okay, let's set up a high school. But that was an entirely new enterprise and undertaking where, you really, of course, need people who are, real professionals in the education world. And fortunately, we have a great principal, great faculty at our high school, Reach Partnership. But that's, setting up a major new enterprise like that's probably about that's among the more challenging things that we've done, but fortunately, successfully.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being, open about that. Because again, we see, a lot of people see the finished product. A lot of people don't really understand how much work it takes to really get this going. And like you said, in order to run a nonprofit organization and in order to retain employees, people have to be willing to work long hours and make that sacrifice in order to, again, fulfill that dream, to fulfill that vision of that company or whatever organization, whatever the mission is, whatever the overall objective is. They have to make that sacrifice if they're really committed to really, again, being that social change agent, so to speak. So that was very important. I'm glad you brought that up. Just briefly, I was able to speak a little bit about my work. And before you popped on, I was able to speak with the listeners about the work that I did under the House Call program and through the Elder Services program. And I know that you guys really, really have a knack for servicing the elders in the city of Baltimore, and specifically who live in a lot of the Northeast Baltimore neighborhoods. So could you tell us a little bit about how you guys really established the field, that work in the field of gerontology? Because what I've learned is that in order to work with the elderly, the seniors, the aging community, it requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of understanding. It requires a lot of it requires a lot of time and energy. I was able to see that, by working under the supervision of a social worker and nurse practitioner. I was able to really see the needs of each and every patient, and to work with the caregivers and to really do my best to connect the resources with the needs. So, what did that look like when you guys established that program specifically? And I'm bringing that program up specifically because that was this program I served under while I was an intern, and that's the program that really allowed me to have that humbling experience and really broaden my perspective on the lives of the seniors who live in these communities.
Yeah, I'd say it was actually probably about 15 years ago that we learned. We always, I guess, speaking for myself, always knew that older adults, of course, have a number of health challenges as they get older, and at the same time, they don't want to. They want to stay. They want to live at home. They want to stay at home. They don't want to have to go to nursing home or some other assisted care facility if they don't have to. And we realize that CivicWorks, through our home improvement program, could be a link to a number of older adults by being able to make home safety repairs so that it would be safe for them to live at their home. And so at that time, we were fortunate in that the Baltimore philanthropic community started to focus on this need and created a funding opportunity. And we were one of the initial grantees under that funding opportunity to help older adults age in place, as it's called. So we started that, and it has just grown ever since. And Nelson, as you referred to the different needs that Civic Works can help with. Even though we don't provide any healthcare assistance, we're not trained in that, but we can provide links, connections to older adults who needs particular healthcare assistance, and certainly also older adults might need help with help that social workers can provide, be it in terms of sort of counseling about maybe some particular challenges that the elder is having. If there are any other city programs that they could benefit from. And then also one thing we've learned is that there are some linkages that between our home safety program and other Civic Works programs that we can provide to the same clients. In particular, weatherization. Many older adults, they've been in homes that are not new, and so they may be ones that could benefit from home insulation, air sealing, other weatherization improvements to make their home more comfortable and more energy efficient to help with their utility bills. And then also, and this became very clear during COVID, when with the start of COVID almost 3 years ago, gosh, it seems like it's been an eternity, but it was only, of course, in early 2020 that COVID hit. And we started to hear from a lot of our older adult clients that, they did not feel safe going to the grocery store. They did not have a means for getting access to food, especially fresh produce. So we became a link in providing affordable produce delivered to seniors' doors. And most cases it's free. Now we have a system whereby they get a big box produce for $5. So that's been an example of how we've been able to sort of expand the types of services in response to needs that we kind of, realize, in particular our older adult clients have. So that's kind of a long answer to your question about how we, developed our elder care programs. But also, it's also helped us by working intensively with, hundreds of older adults realize that, their community, in addition to the assistance that they need, they're assets in the community. How can we, by working, say, with the community association, get seniors involved in community activities so that they can contribute. And so we've helped with that. And also it's just been a good opportunity for our AmeriCorps members who help with the home repair program, also help with the sort of the counseling program that you were involved with, Nelson. How can they directly interact with with the older generation? So it's been a nice intergenerational program as well.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with you on that. So, how can people reach you if they want to learn more about Civic Works, and if they want to, for instance, learn more about the programs you all offer and how they can really get involved and participate? Because I found out about Civic Works through my school before I graduated, and I was able to really take advantage of that opportunity. And I was also really able to really expand my network, and I was able to meet more healthcare professionals and also more social workers in the process. So how can people find you and reach you if they want to learn more about the programs you offer and if they want to participate?
Yeah, they can reach out to me a couple different ways. My email address is dstein, Stein, at civicworks.com, or call our main number, 410-366-8533, or go online. And, we're always hiring. So if someone's interested in getting involved with us as a staff member or an AmeriCorps member, take a look at the opportunities that are there. And then there are plenty of ways to volunteer. We do have these big volunteer days like our MLK Day, our day of service, another day of service later in the year. But then also some of our programs have regular volunteer opportunities. So if you want to get involved with our urban farm or help beautify a vacant lot, there are volunteer opportunities. And those are listed on our website, www.civicworks.com.
All right. Well, thank you again for agreeing to appear on my show. Thank you again for speaking about the work that you have done for the past 30 years for Civic Works. It's really fantastic that you guys have been able to make such an impact on the community for the past 30 years. And I do know that the work is not over, and I know that you guys still have more that you want to accomplish moving forward beyond 2023. So I'm glad that you guys have really been able to really make an impact. And you all have really been able to work together, and everybody, again, has the same objective, the same vision, the same goal in mind. So that's really a delight to hear. Any last words before we click off? Before I let you go?
Just to say again, thank you, Nelson, for this opportunity to talk about Civic Works, and many, many thanks to you for all the great community work that you were doing, and I know that you're going to do in your career. So, thank you, and this has been a real pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you again, Mr. Stein, for agreeing to appear on my show. I will definitely keep in touch with you guys about my other endeavors moving forward. So I'm looking forward to that. So thanks again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You take care.
Take care.
Okay, so that wraps up another edition of the Beauty in Us Radio right here on Awesome Guide Radio. I'm your host, Nelson E. Brown, and I want to thank you all again for tuning into another show. I hope you guys were able to learn a lot more about Civic Works as a nonprofit organization and the work that they do. It's really fantastic. It's really a humbling experience to serve under Mr. Stein's leadership. It's really a pleasure to work with his colleagues. It's really a pleasure to really service the community in so many different ways. So again, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening. I hope that you guys are off to a fantastic start for the new year. I hope that you all have a great rest of your week. I will be back on January 17th, next Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. with some more content and with some more exciting things to share. I hope and pray that you guys have been able to really make the most of everything. And again, we all have something that we're passionate about. We all see a need for change in some way or another. So I encourage you all to really, really learn more about this program and this nonprofit organization and the programs that they provide, so that you can really give back and even spark up a conversation. Have access to more resources that you may not know about and that you may discover later on by learning about with this program. And for all of the young people and for all of the young adults specifically, Civic Works has really opened a lot of doors for me, I know personally, and I know that it can do the same for you. And I encourage a lot of older adults to really, really take advantage of the resources that they provide, so that they can really help you out in any way they can. But again, this is all about service. This is all about giving back. This is all about passion. This is all about, this is all about the community. So I love you all. I appreciate you all. I will be back here next week. So make an appointment to meet me back here next week on Tuesday, January 17th from 6 to 7 p.m. This is the Beauty in Us Radio right here on Awesome Guide Radio. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and make sure you follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Nelson E. Brown, and on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitch, and all of the other sites at Nelson Brown. I love you all, and I will see you all next week. Take care. Bye.